Welcome to The Real with Joseph Lamtman. I am Joseph Lamtman. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Real. Taking time out of your day to come watch this episode. I really appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe for me. I'd really appreciate that as well. That's the best way you can support this channel and help me grow my content and grow this channel to where I'd like it to be. Everybody hit the like button for me on the way in on this video today. That also helps promote this video more in the algorithms, helps grow this channel more as well. Please share this content. I would really appreciate that. My guests would as well. If you would please share this episode with someone you know that maybe is interested in the topic we're talking about today. Please leave a comment below as well. We'd love to hear your guys' feedback. You can interact with myself and the guest on the panel and the live chat as well. Whatever we're talking about, just leave a comment there in the live chat. Pop in and say hello. We'll put it on the screen for you. And yeah, without further ado, let's get to the show. Welcome back to The Real with Joseph Labin. I am Joseph Labin. Happy Mother's Day to all the wonderful mothers out there, especially to my mother and all the great women that have helped me in my life growing up. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Love you. And happy Mother's Day to all my aunts, my grandmothers, everybody in my family, my friends growing up that helped me along the way. So, yeah, I love all you guys. Happy Mother's Day. Special edition Mother's Day of the Mother's Day show today of The Real. My sister, Julia Lamtman, will be making her appearance today on the show. We're going to react to a post by Dennis Simsek, the anxiety guy, on more of a mental health side of things. And then we're going to get talk about, along with the post, kind of goes with the Mother's Day theme of how my mom helped us with this growing up, about what the message Dennis shared is. So without further ado, let me get into it. My man Dennis Simsek, the anxiety guy, posted this today. And I saw this earlier, and this really stood out to me. And it says, "You're not thinking, you're remembering. Remembering how you perceived that thing last time and replaying it this time. Hashtag thoughts." So I'm gonna leave that on the screen there. So a more than anxiety moment. Why did this stand out to me? Number one, this stood out to me because that's very powerful there, what he said. It's very simple if you really understand what he's saying, which I think most people can. If you especially understand, mental health, and as you've been through it yourself, you understand what he's saying there about how oftentimes, let's say, when we approach certain events, and this is something I've had to learn in the last year, getting back out in normal life again, getting back out into reality of just because my life for normal reality, because my life for that 8 year span from 2015, about 7 8 years, to about 22 23, um was not normal reality. It was more of just, a lot of times I was stuck in my house. I wasn't out doing normal things, wasn't connecting with people. I wasn't, just everything in my life just suffered, and it was completely different than most people around my age that time, especially. And so getting back, you know, growing out of the anxiety, overcoming agoraphobia, overcoming all my fears I went through, um, and had, this is very key for me because when I do things now, or when I've done things in the last year that I hadn't done in a long time, something simple as just going out to dinner consistently with my family, going to stores consistently with my family, going to just normal day to day things that you do consistently throughout the week that a lot of people just do normally. I didn't do those things normally for a long time because of my agoraphobia and just my fear, my anxiety. I was just house ridden. So, but what's helped me though, as I've expanded out more and got back to normal and overcame the anxiety and overcoming the agoraphobia, is this right here. Oftentimes, what causes our fears, what causes agoraphobia, is agoraphobia really is just, it's a fear and avoidance of a certain event, place, situation. And oftentimes that starts because we had an initial event. So like for me, 15 years old when all that happened to me when I went to school. If you guys haven't heard, a lot of people have been watching the show now for a while, or the people that have watched the show for a while now, know the story. But when I was 15 years old, I went to a new school in high school, my freshman year, beginning of my sophomore year, and just slowly throughout that year, I just kind of my confidence went low, my anxiety. I started getting really bad anxiety. I just had a bad experience, especially that summer. I went to play football going into my sophomore year, and it was just a bad experience. And just a lot of things happened. It was a really rough summer, roughest part of my life by far. And by the time I got to the point where I couldn't go to school anymore, and my anxiety was that bad, And then once I got out of school and tried doing homeschooling from home and getting help, I didn't really leave the house a whole lot for 3 months, especially that first 3 months, I barely left the house. I didn't go a block away from my house basically in that period. I would only go a block away, or I would have to take medication to get in the car and make it to my appointments for counseling. That's how bad it was at that time. So, again, that was my last experience, but my last experience around people too at 15 years old, was I just had a lot of things that happened. Bad interactions with people. It was a lot of it was misunderstanding. People didn't really understand what was going on with me. And so I kind of just turned myself off from the world and I just avoided everybody, avoided everything. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to go away. And I carried that fear and that depression, that anger in me that whole time, especially that 3 months out, right out of that. And so, again, once down the road, once I started to get back to normal again and get back out and start interacting with my friends and people and putting myself out there, especially doing this is what I had to apply, because it wasn't easy for me and still isn't easy sometimes when I do certain things. But I can't go off of a lot of times now. If I get that initial fear, it's like this says on the thing, I'm just remembering what happened to me at 15 years old. I'm remembering what happened to me, how I felt, maybe something else when I was younger. Because I had some other instances too when I was a kid, just from health anxiety. But that was the main one for me. I'm remembering, I'm replaying that story in my mind, so I still think it's real. And a lot of times, the story we play in our minds is an illusion, and that's what it was for me. I just kept replaying the same story, and so when I would get in situations, I wouldn't do them, or I would avoid them still, or I would go into them very fearful with a lot of anxiety, and I wasn't thinking like it says there. What does it mean by thinking? Thinking is applying the truth. And once I was able to finally slow down in my life, especially at 21 years old, slow down my mind really and get the proper help. And I met Dennis and did his programs and really start to really pinpoint things and really dissect what happened to me. I realized that, number one, it was all a misunderstanding. Number two, the people that I was angry with, I eventually was able to reach out to within the last year, and everything's great. And the person I really had a problem with from football, one of my ex coaches, he even looked back at it now and said, man, I made some mistakes and, I apologize and, yada, yada. But not going to get into too much detail, but it was a great response. And him and I are, we were able to figure out what really happened, on great terms. And it was really cool. But again, all those things, yeah, looking back, and I've connected with a lot of my former teammates, former classmates, and people just from that experience. And I've realized things were never what I thought they were in my mind. I was, I was just remembering what I thought, how I felt back then, how I perceived things and people, and then I started thinking. And when I started thinking, I started to realize what the truth really was, and that nobody was judging you, nobody was judging me, nobody was. And this could apply to you in your situation. Maybe when an incident happened to you, nobody was actually judging you. Nobody was thinking otherwise to you, but maybe you weren't in danger and you thought you were. I know I've been there many times with panic attacks. I thought I was going to die, and this is the one that's going to get me, and it never happened. And I was just remembering, I was replaying. It's like one panic attack would happen, and then the next one, like let's say I had a bad one, and this happened to me. Uh, I had a bad that 3 months when I got out of school. I had a bad panic attack in the car one day in October. And so fast forward to January, I had to go to another appointment one day, and I'm just slowly creeping out of the house again. But what was in the back of my mind? That bad panic attack in October. And so it made it harder for me to leave the house in January to go to my next appointment at that time. And it was just, I had to break that cycle finally. Now, I had to use medication at that time. But as I got older and started to get real help and started to get real counseling, and then working with Dennis and using the four things I'm about to share with you, especially in the last 2 years, which really helped me, especially obviously doing this. Um, that's when I started to overcome and not remember those past experiences. And I've made a healthy relationship with those past experiences in my mind. So I'm gonna give quick four things real quick if I bring my sister up here. These are the four things that helped me really work on this. And the first one I'm gonna say is reframing. Reframing the incident, reframing the trauma, reframing the whatever experience you went through. Reframe. And Dennis's channel has the emotional reframing playlist. Those are the ones I usually use. And reframing is great because it gives you an opportunity to go back, see what happened, see how you really felt, and be honest with yourself. But you also, like a lot of times with Dennis's reframings, like one for instance he has is a trauma based one, and it's about 7 minutes on his playlist. Go check it out. I'll put it down below. Um, and so like this one, you close your eyes, you imagine you're in your favorite, you imagine you're by the ocean, let's say, out on a mountaintop, and in front of you is this picture frame, and on the picture frame is the incident and the picture of how you remember it. So I would remember myself just standing there, and I feel like there's all my teammates and everybody's yelling at me, and everybody, I feel like my coach is yelling at me, and how I felt, and I feel like the world was against me that time, and that's just how I felt at that time, right? Or I felt people were judging me. I felt like I was under distress, and then you take that frame and you push that frame over the cliff, and it's gone and away, and then you imagine the best scenario, how you wish it would have went, right? And then you write down the lessons. You imagine you're standing in front of a whiteboard and you write down the lessons that you take from the experience. And the more you do this reframing and different ones, there's different ones each, and you do it repetitively, you know, maybe do one a day, 3 4 times a week, you start to think about it, not remember it. And you start to think about it for what it really was. And so that's the first one. The second one for me would be positive community. Um, Having positive people, people that are maybe striving for the same goals as you, especially spiritually. And just having people that you can express and talk to, not people that you could sit and, you know, uh, will just feel sorry for you all day, but people that encourage you, people try to tell you the truth, people that try to, like a mother, people that try to, um, just encourage you, but also show you truth, but also people maybe have been where you've been. That's why Dennis and I have become good friends, because a lot of times we've had many conversations, especially when I was, first met him and started reaching out to him. He was a positive community, one of the positive people in my community for me, because he had been where I had been. And so he was able to help me through and push and challenge me in a way, in a healthy way, to where I was able to overcome the obstacles I was going through at that time. And so positive community is great too. And also that, not only that, it, it's good to know that you have people around you that care about you, that you can reach out to. You should never feel like you're alone. And so, and oftentimes, what could be one of your fears is maybe social anxiety or being social. If you can get to a point where you can work your way out and meet new people, and you'd be surprised, and I've learned this in my life through all this, you'd be surprised how many people are going through the same thing you're going through. And you can find positive connection, or you guys can help each other. And so that'd be number two. Number three for me would be spiritual component, prayer life. I don't know if you're out there, if you're somebody who doesn't believe in God, that's okay. It's between you and God. That's your choice. I'm not judging you, but I do believe there is some type of spiritual component. And Dennis believes this too. To healing anxiety, healing anything in life, you have to have some type of spiritual component. Believe in something and attach yourself to that, and really align your life with that, and work. I'm a Christian. I accepted Christ Jesus my Lord as my Lord and Savior when I was a kid, and He's the Lord of my life, and that's who I follow as a Christian. And so I spent much time in the Word, especially now recently. I spent more time in the Word, and really applying it to my life and getting into deep, almost like meditative prayers, and then just letting it out to God. And then it starts to become who you are throughout the day. Every step of the day, you're walking with God. And so that'd be number three, spiritual component. And then the fourth one would be visualization. Imagine the best thing possible in your life. If you have something coming up that you're fearful of, like I was, and sometimes have to work through, you're just remembering what happened to you last time in that experience. Imagine the best, visualize the best, and really, you know, just see how you'd like it to go, and do it repetitively, just to keep imagining the best. Guided visualization, which is also on his channel as well. And so those are the four things for me. Number one, reframing. Number two, positive community. Number three, spiritual component, prayer life. And number four, visualization, future, and just visualizing the best. And so those are the four things that help me with that. Um, Joining me now, whoa, is my sister Julia. Uh, Julia, welcome on to the reel. Uh,
Hey.
yeah, hey, I just saw you like 10 minutes ago. But anyways, uh, what's your reaction to this post? And I next when I saw this, and you gave a really nice take on it. And so, what's your reaction to this?
Um, So I would say, like, for me in my life, because I've been through some things that I haven't really been like open about to like my family and my friends and all that. And a lot
Mhm.
of the time when I was younger, I went through a lot of stuff. Like I know I had a lot of people that I would talk to, and I had friends, but like I never really felt included in like school and stuff. And I just kind of feel like I kept quiet about it my whole life. So basically, and so when I was younger, I went through a long stage of depression, basically from like 4th grade all the way maybe to the end of 7th grade, honestly. And it was mainly just because the people at my school, the way they made me feel, the way they treated me and other people, and it was all around, it was just really hard for me. And I know a lot of that, I like those past 4 years, that time period, it was like, I think the hardest period for me. And I still think of this all the time, like those experiences. And like, I never told my family about it. I didn't even think they knew about like, you guys didn't even know really anything. I was really good at hiding it from my
Mhm.
teachers and everybody. And then I just remember one day after school, I talked to this is my 4th grade teacher, and I actually, like, finally opened up to her about it because she caught me crying in the bathroom. So, I mean, I kinda had to be honest with her. I couldn't really hide it anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I talked to her about it, and she told my parents, obviously, she kinda has to, so that happened, and then at that time, we were going to church still, but, like, I never had, like, a relationship with God at that point, like, I knew He existed and stuff, but I didn't, like, connect with Him on like, a deeper level, and I feel like e even after that experience, I still kind of didn't just because I was 1, I was young, but 2, I didn't really think about it in the way that I do now. So later, like now, I got baptized last year, last summer, and I feel like that's the time in my life where I, like, suddenly realized, like, your thoughts aren't from God, like, your bad thoughts, they're not from God, they're you. They're your humanly thoughts, and I feel like that's something that we all forget sometimes because a lot of the times we'll have bad thoughts and we'll blame God for those and say, "Well, oh, well, if he loved me, he wouldn't give me these thoughts." But it's not him that's giving you these thoughts, it's your humanly self, and I feel like that's something I never remembered back then, and it's something that I feel like a lot of people need to know now because back then, like, it was really hard for me to even talk to anybody. I was always just so mean and negative because I just felt so unhappy with my life. And it was just a really hard point for me. And I feel like now, like the person that I've grown into now, it's just like I wish that I could have remembered that like other people don't matter. It's what God thinks of you. That's what matters ultimately in the end. And
Mhm.
like it's just something that's really been hard for me to talk about, like, even now, it's still really hard for me to talk about just because I still don't fully understand why I felt that way, and, like, I'm still not over it, like, obviously,
Mhm.
stuff like that, like, I feel like a lot of people aren't over their past trauma, and when they think about it, it's just like you feel like you're reliving it, and when you have a negative reaction to a thought, you later will have that thought reoccur, and you always think you have to have a negative reaction to it. But like, I think being older now and like being old enough to finally process that situation and realize, like, yeah, I didn't deserve that, but it did happen and it did help me. And I just, um, like, I know I couldn't have thought about it in any other way, but I wish I could have thought about it in a different perspective. But I didn't know how to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What is you went to the same school like me, Summit Christian School for what,
Yeah.
8 years. You went to a new high school this year, which
Mhm.
I did that same transition. Obviously, I was able to help you out because I didn't. I'm old. Anybody knows we're 9 years apart, and so, but I didn't have an older sibling when I went to a new school. I just had to kind of figure out on my own. But I was able to help her a lot, which I'm sure was some. I don't know. I mean, I hope I helped in some way. But um, what has helped you though? Because obviously you're the one that's doing it. Going to a new school this year and kind of just starting fresh in a new place and making new friends and kind of going off, not remembering what happened to you because you said, like you said, tonight you still think about what happened to you maybe when you're younger. Or so what's helped you now take on new things? You also just did track this season. You just finished your first
Mhm.
track season. You never ran track before. So what's kind of helped you be really ambitious or and not maybe fearless in going towards things?
So I'd say the high school transition, it wasn't really hard for me. I like transitions. I love new things. I love new beginnings. And I feel like I was just ready for this new beginning. Like my time, like from K to 8th grade was not a good time in my life. Like especially because I was just struggling with depression for most of that time.
And we
And
had a
I
lot
f-
going on at home too, especially I was in the
yeah,
town, so
right. So I feel like,
didn't help.
your situation affected me a lot when I was younger because
Yeah.
I was quiet about mine, nobody knew. So I didn't feel heard, but at the same time, I didn't feel heard because I didn't talk to anybody about it, and I feel like, ever since transitioning to high school, going to a new school, I was just so ready to go to a new school. I was just ready for new people because when I, like, think about the people that I went to school with, I just always associate it with that bad trauma that I have going there, and, like,
Mhm.
it wasn't the school, it was just the people some of the people that went there that made my life really hard. I was only 10 years old, so I mean, it's really sad, but I
Mhm.
think now, like, being so ready to go to high school made it more easy for me to transition, and I feel like I definitely did have to find my people for sure. Like, I had a bad thing at the beginning of the year. I had a friend that completely, like, betrayed me, and it was really hard for me to go through, and it still is, like, I still think about it just like everything else, like, I'm always gonna reflect on that, but I feel like once I took the time to exclude some people from my life, I feel like I actually started to find people that help me grow mentally and aren't just with me for the physical part of a friendship, you know what I mean? So I
Mhm.
think that's, like, the biggest thing that's helped me is, like, finding friends, cutting off some old people because at the end of the day, you shouldn't be friends with someone who's not gonna help you and you're not gonna help them. Like, I feel like a real friend that's just how a relationship works. You can't
Mhm.
just have one person be the focus of it and then the other person just being selfish. Like, and that's something I had to learn in high school for sure. Like, just people are petty now. Everybody is,
Mhm.
and people are really self-centered, but
Everybody's very competitive now
yeah, it's
on
like
social
it's a
media.
competition. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
competition. Life is a competition. And I feel like once you finally find the people that think the same way as you do, like about these things and challenge you and call you out like, "Hey, what you're doing is not right." Like, those are the type of friends that I think that I needed to find and I did find eventually, and that's what's got me through, like, this first year especially, was just finding the right people and not surrounding myself with people who do the bad things.
Yeah, it's kinda funny when you say that, having people that correct you, and that's being your older brother growing up and kinda going along with that post. I remember there was a time, like, something simple, for instance, you remember this, you wouldn't ride down a certain hill on your bike because
Oh, no.
you had an accident one day, and not to rehash it or anything, but one day when Julie was a kid, it was the day the Cavs won the championship. She went down the hill and she misjudged it, and it was just a complete accident, and she got hurt. Face was all messed up, and it was a complete accident. But anyways, so later on, we ended up moving in the neighborhood where that hill is, and she would come out on the bike rides with me. I try to take her out all the time, and I remember one. She's like, "I don't want to go down this hill." I remember she just kept remembering what happened to
Yeah.
you last time, and I had to show you like, see, you're okay. I think the first time I think I walked you down the hill. And then the next time I had you go slow and I said, use your brake. And I stayed
Yeah.
right beside you. And then eventually I got you to where you just went down the hill like you didn't even think twice. Sometimes you were going faster than me and you had to tell you to slow down. So you went from not wanting to go down the hill to now you can go down it easy. Well,
Yeah.
well, this is when you were, how
I
old
was
were
like
you when that happened?
I was like 7 or 8.
You were 7. So by the time we moved
Yeah.
in, or
I was like
yeah,
10 when we moved in here, maybe
I think
maybe
about when you were
9.
11 or 12 is when I started getting you to go down that hill again.
Right.
By the time she was 12, she just said, "Screw it," and it was no, didn't think twice about it. So, but that's kind of that's funny. I saw it earlier, and I thought of you, and I thought of that hill. That's kind of what it is, Just, and you've seen me, kind of the things I was afraid to do
Right.
4 or 5 years ago, where I wouldn't go to certain places. Where now you and I are going in the stores, laughing, having a good time at Target and stuff. And so, um, but yeah, and it's funny too. Growing up, because that was my biggest fear growing up, going through all that. The one thing that really bothered me the most, and I would tell mom and dad this all the time, was I don't want you to see me like that. I didn't want you
Right.
to see any of that stuff. Sometimes things happen. You were fortunate you were in the car, and I would start having an attack or something, but a panic attack. But I never wanted you to hear things. I didn't want you to I didn't want you to hear all the stuff I heard growing up. You
Right.
know, all the hypochondria and all the fear and all the, and so I'm glad I was the first one because it stopped with me. And I don't, you know, obviously you went through your battles as well, but I don't, are a little different. You know what I mean? And so,
Yeah.
but yeah, I remember I was very. I didn't want you to hear any of that stuff growing up, but I think mom and dad did a nice job of always. And we try to let you just be a kid and just think about kid things, not what I was going through. But um, last thing though, I want to ask you about this is going back to track and doing something like you said. You went to new school this year. You did track. When you're out there competing, because I know there's a lot of kids out there your age
Mhm.
watching. I know this. I play to get the competition anxiety or
Oh
just
yeah.
trying. I want to really hit more on that point. Just trying new things. What helped you during the season? Of maybe you had a bad meet, or not to say bad meet, but just a meet maybe you didn't run as well, and then the next week, how can you? What helped you in that area with the season, and then also just how? What are you taking forward? What lessons are you taking forward with you for next season and for the future?
Um, I'd say what helped me the most is the support of my teammates. Like, when someone messes up on my team, no one judges anybody for it. Like,
So you had the
and
positive community.
yeah, like, it feels so family that when you mess up everybody did it this season. Everybody messed up at least probably 5 times, and the good part about, like, that's what makes me keep going is the family aspect of my team. Like, everybody's just so close, all the girls are so close, and we're even close with the boys too, like, we're all just, like, so close that we instead of, like, making fun of each other for our mistakes, we lift each other up, and I feel like that's something that kept me going and kept inspiring me, was that they helped me, I helped them, we got this all
Mhm.
season, and we got through it, we did really good this season. And also what helped me kept going was my coaches for sure. They were
Shout out to
they're
Coach
fu
Guerrero, Mike, who was
Yeah,
my coach, my track, or not my. I didn't run track, but was my. He was one of my coaches growing up as well. Now he's one of your coaches, which is kind of cool. But sorry, I had
yeah.
to shout him out. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Coach LeGrare, he gives us inspiring quotes before he always says something that's really, like, heart touching before every meet, and that I don't know,
Hmm.
it just always helps, and what helped me the most, like, the thing with my coaches with that was that they never told us that we aren't doing enough. I mean, unless we obviously weren't doing enough, but in terms of, like, my coach Foster, he always tells us that, if we're putting in all of our effort, that's all that matters, and, like, he never, like, made any of us feel uncomfortable, like, in the way that, like, you have to get this time or you have to beat this race, like, or else you're done, like, he never made us ever feel like that, and I feel like that's he kinda let us bloom on our own the whole season. And I just feel like with my coach's attitude and my teammates' attitude, that's what made the season what it was, and that's what gave me the confidence that I have, and I feel like, especially when you're on the blocks and you're about to run, I feel
Hmm.
like that's when I get in my head the most, and I feel like just hearing your teammates, like, cheer you on in that moment, because that's the scariest moment of the whole season is when you're
Hmm.
on the block and you're about to run and it's so quiet. It's scary because, you wanna win, but you just get really nervous, and I feel like the best part about it, the part that helped me get through those moments is just hearing my teammates, like, cheering on for me, and, like, that's what always helped me push through.
Yeah, I think it's kind of reminds because it's funny. You work with Coach Guerrero now, and I know Coach Guerrero real well and know how he is. So a lot of things you tell me when you come home, I already know. I understand how he is. But I think that one thing with him that I liked, and you probably picked up on this, and Coach Foster as well. Who I don't know, but I know you love Coach Foster.
Mhm,
Um, they instill confidence in you guys, and that's what
mhm,
I remember. Coach Guerrero, he always made me feel like I could. He never made me feel like I couldn't do anything. I believed in the training and I believed in what I was doing. I feel like when I come back, I'm going to be the best player I can be. So it's confidence. But I think that goes along with the post as well, because that's kind of like me with agoraphobia. It's just confidence and doing normal things that I used to do that I can do them again, right? And being confident around people and being confident in who you are. And you're definitely like that, a lot better than I was at that age. So, do you notice that well with Coach Regrere? Just kind of, or any of your coach, especially like the upperclassmen? I think having good veterans is helpful too and a good culture, which I know Hoban has a great culture athletically and just the whole school. So having that confidence instilled down into you?
I mean, for sure, like, I feel like Coach LeGrare specifically, he's always been, like even from what I remember seeing him train you when I was little, like, he's
Yeah.
always just been that uplifting coach, you know what I mean? I've never seen him put an athlete down for what they've done, and I feel like
Mhm.
that's what makes him, like, probably the greatest coach maybe both of us have ever had, or trainer, like
Yeah, it's funny. You used to Julie used to go out to my section to cop me and Diva. Shout out to Diva. Diva used to come too. We'd be out there training. Julie would be out there running in little flip flops as a kid. And he used to say too, one day I'm gonna train you, and now he's your coach. It's kind of
I
funny. But
know. Who's that famous guy I ran on the track with?
Paris Campbell,
Yeah.
the fastest player, best high school football player. Yeah, Paris Campbell. Coach Regret worked a lot of people. His most famous is Butch Reynolds, and
Mhm.
who everybody knows Butch Reynolds, one of the greatest runners of all time. But yeah, you saw Paris running that one time. Paris was elite speed. That's why he's in the NFL today. But um, before we get out of here, though, that post, because it is Mother's Day, and Happy Mother's Day to our mom. And speaking of that post, though, how has mom and dad really helped you? Because I'll go first real quick, as
Mhm.
we got to wrap this up. Is I think mom and dad really helped us growing up a lot, especially when I was in my down years, going through new things. And I know that with you and probably I've helped you, try to help you with this. Is kind of what that post said, not remember what happened yesterday, not remember what happened in the past, and just focus on what you can do today. And so I think, our mom and our dad both, especially our mom, though, 'cause she was with us the most. Dad's at work all day. Really instilled that confidence in us a lot of times, and also really just was there for us to comfort us and to help us really not remember what happened in the past, not remember what happened 5 minutes ago, but just think about the positive. And she always says that to us: think about the positive and see the positive and what can happen in the outcome, and go for things, and that we're limitless, really. And so I'm curious what your thoughts are, especially on this Mother's Day.
Um, I'd say, like, my biggest regret in going through the situation that I went through when I was 10 would be not telling them sooner. Like, I told them I only was planning on telling them after my teacher talked to me about it, because she had to tell them legally, obviously, but, even before that, I was always too scared to tell my parents, you, or anybody else about it, just because I didn't feel like anybody would understand what I was going through. I just thought it was just me, and I was alone in it. 'Cause, everybody at my school just kinda, like, ganged up on me a little bit, and I just felt like I was the only one going through that, and
Hmm.
I think something that I wish I could have done was tell mom and dad sooner, because it probably would have helped me get over that depression sooner, like, and I obviously now, like, we both feel like we can tell them anything, and they'll always support us no matter what, and I know that they do. And I think the biggest thing that's helped me is mom always telling me, "Who cares what they think?" She like,
Yeah.
I always tell her everything, and she's like, "Well, who cares?" And I'm like, she's so right though, because, like, none of the things that people say to you or do to you is none of it's gonna matter in, like, 20 years. You're gonna forget about it. So why worry about, that? And one of the other things that I think, like, dad specifically has taught me is, like, I just remember, like, I always used to say that, like, "I can't wait for something," or "I can't wait," like, we have a lot of
Get
"I can't
impatient.
waits" in life. Yeah, like, "I can't wait to graduate. I can't wait to, do all this." But I think, like, one thing I've learned is, like, why wait for the future when you can live in your present? You know what I mean? And that's something that I forget all the time. I'm always so worried about, where am I gonna go to college? Like, I have to graduate, I have to figure everything out, and I just feel like we just get so tied up in all the future stuff that we have coming that we forget about all the stuff that we have coming tomorrow or today. And
Hmm.
it's like, I'm just, growing up, I'm learning to not stress about the future and live in the present, because that's what I'm gonna, that's how I'm gonna gain memories. And I think that's just something that, like, dad specifically has taught me, because he's always like, whenever I complain about going to school on a Monday, he's like, or I just complain that, like, "Oh, I have to go to school tomorrow." He's like, "Well, at least something." Like, he's always like, "Well, at least tomorrow's Friday," or something. So I feel like the
Hmm.
small things that they've said like that has, like, really helped me to, like, think about why am I so worried about what's happening in the future when I can live the way I am right now?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And I'll close with this. I think kind of what you said too, and hearing you today talk about that stuff when you were younger. I used to, I was really angry for a while by what happened to me. I was younger. I feel like I was missing out,
Mhm.
especially in those years of 18, 19, 20, 17, 18, 19, 20. But I look back now, one of the bigger positives I have is I was able to be home and I was able to be present for you, especially as a
Right.
young woman or young girl, to have an older brother and, to be there, especially sometimes when they would go places and we'd be home at night, you know, hanging out. But
Yeah.
that's one of the things I look back on, what helps me realize why God allowed certain things. I'm glad I was not doing the normal things people that age, and I was rather home because I would be present. I was able to be a present older brother to you, and be a son for mom and dad. So, but yeah, I just that goes along with your point there about looking at things in a positive manner, not only in the future, but today, but even in the past as well, in that reframing. So,
Yeah.
well, great job, sister. You got any final words here? Happy Mother's Day, mom.
Happy Mother's Day, everybody.
Happy Mother's Day, all wonderful mothers out there, and all right. Thank you, Julia. Love you. And
Thank you.
I'll see you in 5 minutes. Uh, yeah, that's my lovely sister, Julia. So go find her online. She has an Instagram, and she posts a lot of her tracked photos and stuff on there as well. So shout out to her, and loved having her on today. Again, happy Mother's Day to all the wonderful mothers out there, especially my mother. Love you, Mom, and love you, Dad. Love all my family, friends, and everybody. So hope you guys enjoyed us today. We're going to do more of these, Julie and I. Leave us some comments below. Maybe some different topics you'd like her and I to discuss. And I'm going to have some more people on here as well in the future and expanding the show. So it's been a work in progress, but we're getting there. And so, yeah. And make sure if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. It's the best way you can support my channel, help me grow. It's free. Just hit the subscribe button right there. Hit the like button as well. Helps me fight the algorithms. Please leave your feedback and share this content. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. And I'm out of here. Gone.